Dave,
John.
Shane,
Chad.
these sci-fi guys.
Welcome to these Sci-Fi Guys. I'm your host, Dave, and with me is Shane, Chad, and John today. Today, we're going to be discussing a movie.
Really?
Obviously. The Last Starfighter. The Last Starfighter. So let me take this off the screen here for a second. All right, think about it this way. This is the summer of 1984, right? That's when this movie came out. It was a banner year in Hollywood. Okay, there's a whole bunch of list of movies that came out all around the same time. You had Ghostbusters, you had Gremlins, you had Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. You had Conan the Destroyer, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You had The Karate Kid. You had Purple Rain with Prince. I mean, Red Dawn, Wolverines.
Mm-hmm.
The Never-Ending Story. And if you were really nerdy, you went to see The Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes.
I mean, and then you had this little bitty movie called The Last Starfighter, was released in the middle of all this mess and kind of got forgotten about, but it didn't do too bad. It did do 29 million at the box office, and it was only 15 million is what it cost to produce it. So they almost doubled, and that's good money. That's good money. So we're going to change things up just a little bit, and we are going to do our questions first. All right, so Chad has the questions this week because he picked this movie. Go ahead, Chad.
So on the first question, I know we done this movie in our first season. We did all three. So the car that Centauri drives, does it similar to any cars in movies we've seen?
Yeah, it looks like a Ford Pinto. It's fine.
Yeah.
Good one.
No, I know. Chad wants to say it looks like a DeLorean.
Oh,
A DeLorean.
So, but yeah,
Just
no,
a
that
lot.
actually the way the question is, you didn't say in another movie. So to me, it looked like, all right, because I'm a car buff. All right. Aston Martin made a Bulldog. Here it is right here up on the screen for those of you out there.
Okay.
Google it. It is very, 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 very similar to the car that the Star Car is what they called it. I think I had like a Hot Wheels car or something of one that was very similar. It's called a Bricklin SV10. It's actually made in Canada. I had Hot Wheels cars or something of this actual car with the gold wings open up, and man, I dogged the mess out of it. I played the mess out of that car. It was I always acted like the wing, the things would open up and then you'd be able to fly. Actually, there was a cartoon back when I was a kid called Mask. And that was one of them. It was a Camaro, I remember. And the Camaro, the doors opened up like it was a cartoon. The doors opened up, and then they extended out, and then it can fly. So, but they had their special masks on, so no one would know who they really were, even though their cars looked just like their machines. Anyway, go ahead. Go with your next question, Chad.
Well, and if you also look at it, it looked like a way. I am sorry, whoever might out there that owns one of these, a Cybertruck. It looks like a way better Cybertruck.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that, but it actually does.
Well, hold on.
It really does.
It looks like a cyber. I put a picture up there for those of you that are on audio. You can go ahead and Google it. To me, it looks like a Cybertruck van.
Looks like a cyber hatchback.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. A
cyber
station
hatchback.
wagon Cybertruck.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Needless
So-
to say, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing vehicle.
No.
No, but futuristic.
It is
Very
futuristic.
futuristic, yes. Mhm.
So this is Centauri made a game to test to find the next starfighter on Earth. So why did he get in trouble for it? And what does it remind you of?
So one of the things that kind of came to mind to me, as far as why he got in trouble, because one of the things they were talking about, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember when he first showed up, they were talking about how they didn't think Earth was developed enough to be able to have fighters that could do what they needed to do, and just with the game kind of being a testing ground, and that's why they showed up after he broke the record, because they're like, oh, this person, but originally they never thought it was going to be somebody from Earth.
They only put the games on Earth. It was nowhere else out there.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
Centauri
see, I
is the
missed
one
that.
that. Yeah, Centauri designed and made the.
That's right. That's right.
The arcade.
Yeah.
That's not the actual game, because I wish. But no, an arcade type game to test. I guess it would be the best thing to do. To see what's out there. To me, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of my military recruiter. That's what it reminded me of. Oh, you'll be able to see the world. It'll be great. You'll get to do this, but didn't say anything about war. Doesn't say anything about fighting, but just the good stuff that's out there. I mean, I can't complain. I did 20 years, so I stayed with it. I mean, and I've been through some of the other conflicts and stuff. So I mean, I still dealt with it, but it was like a recruiter, they don't always tell you everything. And that's kind of how I thought of Centauri. He wasn't telling him the whole story.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think of it in a couple of different ways. So just the context of Centauri in general, he reminds me just like an old classic gangster, almost like gambling addiction. Like, I bet I can find someone on Earth that can do it, and then like he definitely laid like 1,000,000 units on that bet, and he won. And it definitely seems like that's an issue. But otherwise, it reminds me in like the modern age of cinema, Gran Turismo, where they put on a tournament of the digital creators with it and put on digital races, and then they actually get real race car drivers that way. And
I
then
actually want
also,
to see that movie. I have not seen it.
It looks
it's
good.
decent.
It
I'm
looks
not going to say
good.
it's phenomenal, but it's decent.
Mm.
And which we judge much harsher now. We've talked about. But also with the military, I mean, the military still also kind of does this. I mean, especially for drone pilots and such, they kind of recruit in that way, just hand dexterity and recruiting in that way. And so I think it definitely carries over in literally real life now. So I think it's interesting that even then they're like, oh yeah, this alien came down, he planted this arcade game to see who he could find. Now, my real question, well, never mind. I'll get to that later. I was going to say, I realize that's kind of a plot hole.
Save
Well,
it.
just to
Yeah.
kind of piggyback, John, on what you were talking about as far as the character of Centauri, one of the things, and this maybe I should save it, but I'll forget if I don't say it. The guy who actually played him was the original guy who played the Music Man when that first came out. So this character was actually based on that character from the Music Man, which is Professor Harold Hill. And what it was he was just a con man, and he would do whatever he had to do to convince people to get what he needs. And that Centauri character just fits that. It's like, I'm going to convince them to do whatever I need to do.
Oh yeah.
Like what was it? We did was it Ready Player One, or was it what's the other one? The close to it we did first. It was Gamer. Like, yeah, it was Ready Player One.
Free
It was-
Guy?
Ready Player One. We did Ready Player One. We did
Yeah.
Tron. We've done
No, what I'm saying is, like, he was a free world. You go in there, and he was a player. He upgraded his.
Yeah, Ready Player One.
So it kind of reminded me of some kind of test thing that you would have at least saw something similar to that. And but other than that, yeah, in real life, you see it. Like they put out. Oh, let's see hand charity what John was saying with drone pilots. So other than that, that pretty neat. But I got something in the behind this in the next segment I want to say, or another question be. So, do you see any other films in this movie?
I would say I feel like there's plenty, some more obvious than others. I mean, obviously, we already made the connection to the DeLorean and Back to the Future. That idea, I think, Star Wars, a lot of the sets,
Yeah.
at least, kind of seem like they harken back to that. The uniforms of the aliens, as poor as the graphics were, which honestly fair for the budget they had. The ships and all seem very closely related, which again, if they're based off the already existing video game, I kind of get where they would look that way, but also like in general, they definitely still looked Star Wars-esque. And there were just a few general, like, really, if you make a sci-fi movie in this time, it's going to look a certain way kind of elements. And so I think that brushes up to, of course, Star Trek and other parts of the genre too. I mean, a lot of the movies at that time, if it's sci-fi, it's going to look a certain way, and it honestly hit a lot of that.
Oh, it to me, I was going to say Tron. I mean, it was done by the same like programmers, I believe. But still, I mean, the way they designed it and made all the ships and everything. I mean, I was just like, okay, that's them in a light cycle, you know. I mean, that's what I thought. And I mean, and it's the same. It is the same story as Star Wars for sure. You know, a young man, he gets basically drafted or recruited in, and he has to defend the galaxy. You know, I mean, but of course that could go anywhere. I mean, it's very simple in broad terms. But yeah. And then I also saw some ET in there a little bit, you know.
Well, also there was some. You said Star Trek, but you see some Star Trek, especially in the was the not in the what they called them.
The what are they called? Hold on, I got it written down. The Rodan.
Rodans, the ship,
Mhm.
like with the looks more of a. So yeah, you got most of almost in this time frame, sci-fi range. It's going to look the same because they're going to mirror other films just to try to play along with it. So we meet the Centauri when he comes pick up Alex. So now Alex sees him, takes off his face, and then puts it back on. So why do you think Centauri kept his disguised on at the base at the space station and not being his or just take it off? Why do you think he kept it on?
Money. Special effects budget. No, but I think it goes back to what Shane was saying about how he is a swindler and all that, and didn't want people to realize at the Starfighter base who he really was. You know, I mean, granted, they knew he wasn't human. You know, they knew he was an alien-esque type, but they didn't know his specific. Maybe, you know, I don't know. I don't know what he could have been. You know, I'm trying to think of an alien type. Okay, let's just say like he was a Klingon, but you couldn't tell. Okay, he didn't look like Worf. He didn't look like, you know, T'Pol. He didn't look like any of these other people. You know, so that way he kept his mask on so people wouldn't know exactly who he was. That's how I saw it. Anybody else?
I wonder also if it was to provide a sense of comfort and a sense of familiarity to Alex while he was there. So you're not all surrounded by by people of different planets and things like that. And even though he still looked like Alex, and it might help to kind of persuade him to stay, maybe a little bit. Just that sense of here is somebody who looks like me, talks like me, seems like they have my back, quote unquote. I guess that may be a stretch, but that kind of popped in my head.
I say that one popped in my head, and then I also thought, like, honestly, it could just come down to comfort. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I have my favorite clothes that I wear all the time, and honestly, if I have my choice, those are the clothes I'm going to go back to. And genuinely, I think maybe Centauri straight up just wore it enough that was just where he's comfortable. If it's his personality, his character, so maybe he just stuck with it because people started recognizing that way. He just stuck with it, and it was comfortable. And that's just kind of my general take on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Was the do you think this? So this was he made a video game to find the last Starfighter. Do you think it was this based off an actual video game, or was it based off a book?
I know
So
the
I'm
answer,
gonna
but I'm
use-
not gonna.
I
I want
know.
you guys
I'm
to
going to
say
use
something.
deductive reasoning, just based off of the fact we're asking the question and say it's based off of a book, even though I have no context for that whatsoever.
Shane?
Because why ask the question if it's not?
So there actually was a book. So Alan Dean actually published a book called The Last Starfighter, but it came out on June 1st, 1984, and I think this movie was like July 31st, 1984. So of course there wouldn't be enough time for the movie to be based off of it. But I'll stop there and let somebody else finish the thing. That's just my little input.
Oh no, that's good. I
Yeah.
mean, I was going to say because Alan Dean Foster is the one that wrote it. I mean, but for those that are in the sci-fi realm, no, he wrote Aliens or Alien. He wrote several. He wrote Star Trek Into Darkness. He wrote several of the expanded universe and Star Wars. So big sci-fi geek.
Yeah.
But there was an actual video game
Yeah. It was actually
of the game. There was an actual one of the game, but it was not released until 1990 on the NES. So you can play it, but it's if you can find it. And I've seen an emulator of it it only works on like Windows 7, but apparently it crashes all the time. But yeah, they did design one for the Atari system for the 5200, but they never released it.
So there's actually this could be behind the scenes or whatever, but there was actually a video game it was based off of, but it was not called The Last Starfighter.
Right.
It was
go ahead.
off the let's see here. Trying to find it because
Well, while you're doing that, let's go ahead and go to behind the scenes then. All right. So Chad's looking it up.
let's see. It was off the Commodore 64, so it was
Yeah.
but it was how was it? Hold up. I forget the name. I was trying to look at.
Yeah. I remember seeing it when I was going through doing my research, and I didn't write it down because I don't pick up every single thing for behind the scenes. I pick up some fun stuff. Like for example, the story was written by Jonathan R. Butel. All right. He was working at an ad agency and was driving a taxi. That was his job. And he wandered into, and I'm going to put a big picture up there, a video arcade and watched the kids playing it. And he envisioned an arcade game that was like King Arthur and the Sword of the Stone, a game that would beam out a signal announcing the chosen one when a high score was reached. So,
Yeah, so that was so second question was asking, it was, hold on, let me get back to where I was at on that, because it was so it was really pointing into a book series. See here, it was T.H. White. That what you just said, right?
No, Jonathan Butel is the one that actually was a
Yeah.
screenwriter.
Screenwriter, but
Yeah.
he looked at, so it was the Once a Future King by T.H. Wright.
Oh yeah. King Arthur and the Sword of the Stone.
So, but the test was called the Excalibur test.
So there you go. Yeah. Well, one of the big things that I thought was pretty funny when I was looking up some stuff is they had to make a lot of changes to the screen because they originally wanted to do it in a suburb, not in a trailer park, and there was too many other movies, E.T., Poltergeist, Close Encounters. They all were right around the same time, and they were all in the suburbs. So they were like, okay, we need to do something different. Plus, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were putting everything else out there, and they wanted to differentiate from them, even though they didn't want to look like copycats. In other words,
Right.
I already had the thing about Robert Preston. That was Centauri that Shane already talked about. Okay, so this.
the
Hey,
movie-
one more thing I'll mention. One more thing I'll mention too.
Go ahead.
Did y'all know that this was also made into an off-Broadway musical?
Ooh.
No.
Yes.
No, I did not know that.
Yes, in 2004, this was actually made into an off-Broadway musical. Now that would have been really cool.
That would have been.
I'm just gonna say that would have been cool.
That would have been. Oh, let me go back to Robert Preston. All right, as Centauri. So when they cast him, and I quote, they said they called it one of the greatest castings of the 80s. The director called they called it TLS, a musical without any music, and it's perfect for the fast talking Preston. So, and then
Hey, he definitely fit the role well.
oh yeah.
Professor Harold Hill. I'm telling you, the music.
It was.
Man.
I mean,
Telling you.
there you go. That's
There
who
you
he
go.
was.
There you go.
Professor Harold.
1957.
Yep, the Music Man. I remember watching it with my dad a lot. I loved it. It was a great movie.
Great show. Great
Great
show.
One of the things this was probably, it says arguably, was the first to have all of its effects done by a computer, other than some explosions and then minor makeup and stuff. And the Gunstar, all right, here's the 3D model of the Gunstar. The Gunstar ship, to actually do it, took 750,000 polygons. And you can kind of see a picture there of kind of what they were using to do it with. That ain't no Mac, and that ain't no Windows.
No,
11.
there's no UI for that.
Nice.
If you'll notice, there's not even a mouse. All right.
No, just pure programming intelligence.
Old school.
It
At
was
its finest.
It was called Cray Et's MP computer.
Yeah. I mean, it was just unlike. I mean, we're all talking on either on our cell phones or on laptops or desktops or whatever, and the computing power that we have in this is so much more than what they did and actually designed this movie with. I mean, you see some of this stuff out there on YouTube, that people make, I'm flabbergasted at a lot of this.
And on free programs now, like there are free programs that can do a lot of this, and that's wild. Maybe not at a studio level, but fair, it shouldn't. But man, just the fact that we've come oh, here's a computer that takes up a whole building, to now it's like you can do this in your pocket.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Star Car. The Star Car, that ugly thing that we were talking about earlier. That Star Car actually has a VW chassis and engine in it, and it's just sheet metal. They just slapped
Well, yeah.
sheet metal and glass on the outside of it. That's all it is, and it ran like garbage, and it was so loud, apparently. But it was used as a prop in another movie that we have done. If you'll look in the background on this is Back to the Future 2. And if you look right there to the left in front of the VW Bug is the Star Car.
Nice.
So, yeah. Not only was it used there, the Ready Player One. I want to find the exact quote. I have it here. Ready Player One. Wade's one of his access to be able to get onto the Oasis was, you have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada. That was his login, which was from this movie. I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, just two more real things. Okay, after the test screenings, the audience loved Beta, the Beta character. They loved the Beta character. All right. If you'll notice, especially the differences, his hair right after the movie, he cut it all off. And if you'll notice, it was really bad wig job on a lot of the Beta behind. I tried finding a better picture, but that's the only one I could find. And he also was sick at the time. So they did a whole lot of makeup, and then they did a bad wig on top of him as Beta, because they had already filmed the rest of the movie. And they were like, oh, the audience really liked the Beta person, so we need to add that to it. And then the funniest thing of all is a Star Trek alumni is in this movie. You probably don't even recognize them. You probably wouldn't. No one would, unless you were really looking hard. Okay, you see the little kid there with the plaid shirt?
Will Wheaton.
It's Will Wheaton.
Really?
It's
Yep.
Will Wheaton.
Okay.
They actually had lines for him. They recorded the lines, but they cut it out of the final print. And so Will, actually, if you go to his website, you can see he says they've already filmed. I was in a lot of the background stuff, so I ended up in the credits. And he's like, every year I get $100 or so in residuals. So, I just thought that was hilarious. And finally, Greg, who is played by Dan, I can't pronounce his name, O'Earthly. Anyway, those of us that were in RoboCop, he was the old man at the end that said, "You're fired." It was the same guy. And I just, to me, especially, Greg was just like, and all that. And then he was just like this uptight executive. So I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So let's go to our favorite segment. Plot holes. I'm sure there was tons of them. I found only a couple. So who wants to start?
I have the one that I remembered from earlier.
Hey, John.
Why the trailer park? Which I know we answered from a practical standpoint for when the movie was made, but from storyline standpoint, why would you choose this one small random place in the middle of nowhere, as opposed to where you have a greater chance of finding someone in some huge sprawling city? That one makes a little less sense to me.
Well, he answered that in the movie. He said that machine was supposed to not go to the trailer park. It was supposed to be in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's right. He did
Fair.
say that.
That would make a lot more sense. We get into general space issues as well outside of that one. Just being in space, operating in space, again, around entirely other alien races, and not getting sick or not dying in space, not having proper equipment to make it through space, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. All of that kind of wrapped into one for me.
Okay. Shane, how about you?
So I had kind of the same ones, just your general space stuff, and kind of just the same ones that we kind of mentioned whenever we're talking about space. But yeah, about the whole thing with the video game and the setup, I thought was good. But I would have I think I don't know. I think there could have been more as far as specifically using the video game as part of the story, and I'll talk about it a little bit later in my fixes. But I just think there could have been a little more with that.
Okay. Chad, how about you?
I don't know if you remember when he first got into the space station and landed. He's hurting. You can never understand what other people are saying until they put something on his shirt. Now, this is neat, and it was. So, did y'all know what that was?
A universal translator.
Yeah, it was Universal Translator, but the little board it came off a little digital circuit board. That's all it was.
Oh, okay. Well, then let me piggyback on that. All right. So that was one of the ones I saw was okay. Greg put that on
Yeah.
Alex so Alex could hear him, but then Greg talks to all of those people back on Earth, and none of them are wearing the translator.
Yeah.
So
So it's like maybe he taught English and it was more for the other.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only other ones, you get any more? Or
No, that was
it?
because the thing is why on that shirt he changed out of that shirt once the suit and
Well, I'm
he-
assuming the suit has one built into it, maybe. I don't know.
I see.
Again, we could go into the whole space, like you guys said, the whole thing. With a why do you have sometimes you're wearing your mask, sometimes you're not. Why is it fogged up when you land on Earth? You can't see out of it. That's just dumb. But you live in a trailer park. Why are all these people excited that you're going to get a high score? They could care less. I'm sorry. They're just trying to survive. They kind of made it look like the whole trailer park was everyone was just, oh, happy go lucky. We all love each other and blah, blah, blah. No. And finally, here's a picture of the Gunstar. How many seats do you see? 1, 2. Where's Maggie going to sit at? I mean,
In storage.
he even said, he's like, well, I've only got room for one more for Maggie. And it's like, no, you don't have room for Maggie. It's just your seat, the gunner seat, and then Greg's seat. That's it. I didn't see anything else.
But you gotta think that was the beta version of it was a newer ship than what it was the story. So it could have had a navigate. You had somebody had a seat behind and you couldn't see. I'm just
yeah, I mean, yeah. So anyway, all right, let's go to our next segment. Codan. I said Rodan earlier. I meant Codan. Yeah. Okay. Fixing or improving. What would we do to fix or improve this movie? Let's start with, I don't know. I'll with it. Sure, I'll do it. Okay. So what were what did I say? Lodan? I can't even pronounce it.
Codan or
Codan, thank you. What were they? Were they robots? Were they creatures? Because I mean, we saw the ship blowing up, and then they just kind of went, and just so that I would like to have a better backstory on the relationship between Zur and his father, how it went south. I think that would be really interesting. Because all we got was basically a whiny brat wanting to get back at his father.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna be emperor.
Yeah, wants to be emperor. Emperor of what? I mean, you're gonna destroy the entire civilization. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think my biggest fix is make the kid younger. I mean, by the time you're a teenager and all that, you're kind of done with the video game thing, I mean, I know I was. I mean, I was up until about, I don't know, 15, 16, but once I hit 16 and then there was cars and there was girls and all that, no, video games were done, So I think the story could be better if you made the main character younger, like 10 or 12. Because really they're the ones that are going to be doing it, if anybody. Don't make it a romance with Maggie. Have Maggie be his best friend. And then kind of see how Beta deals with school. And then the kind of the interaction there. I mean, I know they've played it out on some back in the 80s, TV shows and stuff. But and then at the end, he still has to go, but his mother will go with him. One, to get her out of the trailer park. And then and get rid of the brother. You don't need this little brother. I mean, that's just, or take them both. So that way the whole family goes. And then it could even be hey, Maggie, we're best friends. When we get a little older, I'll come back for you, or something. Or here's a communicator that we can talk to, or something. Just it doesn't need to be so heavily romance, and again, he's known her all of his life, and yes, he knows he wants to leave, but then you want her to make a decision that, hey, you're going to leave your grandmother right here and now. I just didn't get it. So, all right, somebody else. John, how about you?
Overall, I think just my technical side, I would love to see. Honestly, I would have preferred them to use practical effects. I think I appreciate the effort that went into the computer generated, and I understand how great it was for that time. And honestly, it didn't really take away from the story at all. So I give it credit. I mean, it kind of lent itself to that whole video game idea, which I appreciated. However, I would have liked to see, I think, practical models and all of that from the practical real world side. From the story side, I really wish, if the trailer park is as supportive as they were, they would have let this man have at least one free day with friends. I think the classic summer montage right before he gets sucked into the video, or into the space world, I think that would have been nice. Not necessarily necessary to the story, but like, if we're setting up this whole nice community, I think just one time they say, just go. And maybe somehow that leads itself into the story. The ending, I really wouldn't have minded him kind of being on call, as it were. Like, he stays on Earth, but they don't call him until there's a situation, and they just come pick him up on the way. I think I almost would have preferred that, as opposed to like, oh, we're just taking one other person and we're leaving. Like, no, he's a kid. He has a normal life. And I think even the Galactic Universe at that time would have understood that in some way, and just like, all right, here's a communication device. They obviously have those. Centauri gave him one. Just when we're ready, we'll be here, and we'll let you know we're headed this way. And then overall, if you completely shifted the movie and I could make an overall improvement, I almost would just lean full into, as much as it looked like other films, just made it a parody. Because I think it would have made a decent parody if they had it wouldn't have taken much to lean into that, even with the story that was there already, and just kind of going full send into that.
Oh, let me add, get rid of the bald wigs.
Mhm.
I mean, everyone had the bald wig on. It just kind of like, it was so distracting to me. So Shane, how about you?
So for me, it was two things. The first thing is more of just a personal thing. I would have loved to, in the scene when the arcade game was shaking and everything, and it was signaling for, I can't think of his name now.
Centauri?
Yes, for him to come and get him. I would have loved to actually see him like get sucked into the video game, and like that's where the actual story happened. And I mean, just a personal preference. I just think that would have been cool, honestly. But then you would have lost some of the real world aspect. Like, it's actually in the guys. It would just be existing inside the video game. So that's another another thing. But anyway, just a personal thing. The other thing that I would say is I think they tried too hard with the music to make it Star Wars. Even so, the composer of this was a guy named Craig Sanfin. I think I'm saying that name right. He composed music for several movies and TV shows. One of the movies being Major Payne, good movie if you've seen it. Also Cheers. He did music for it too. But he even said that he wanted the music to be bigger than Star Wars. Well, that's a tall order when you think about John Williams as the composer for Star Wars, and it kind of revolutionized everything. So what he did was he really kind of made it kind of a Mahler-esque size group of excuse me. So a Mahler-esque size orchestra, which for those who don't know, Gustav Mahler was a Romantic composer, 1860 to 1911, and what he was known for was large orchestras. So what happened was this composer, he quadrupled the amount of woodwinds they have. That's flutes, clarinets, all of that, and he actually had 8 trumpets, 8 trombones, and 8 horns. So a big group to get this massive sound, and I'm good with that. I get that, but I think as far as the themes go, he really tried to make it too much like what Star Wars was. I was telling the guys offline, when you listen to the theme, you hear elements of Star Wars and also elements of the A-Team theme song, if you really kind of listen to it. But sort of like John said, I kind of wish they would have just not tried to make it like Star Wars and went a different direction. As far as with the music, don't try to do something like that. Make it your own, even if you did more of a parody, kind of like a Spaceballs kind of thing or whatever. But if you kind of formulated the music that way instead of saying we're going to be better than Star Wars, it just didn't work to me. So I think it could have been better if you just either tried to go a different direction or, like John said with the plot, you make it more of a parody.
Yeah. Chad, how about you?
I kind of agree with Shane with the video, getting sucked in the video game, because it probably made it the story of being the last Starfighter and be what we said that being a test and he had the high score, be like what instead of being a video game creator getting sucked into how Tron did, but made it that way, or made that as it's a teleport him from there to a spaceship or space station, and then say that to the same thing with Dave. Don't make it romantic. I get what they were trying to do there. It was at the time it's a sci-fi movie, but you also had a lot of these high school what was it the last Fast Time at Ridgemont High, or this stuff like that, trying to make it like that. Or, hey, here's this. This is the person you're with.
Yeah.
Drop the romance. Make her the best friend, or even don't have it as a girl. Make it as a guy best friend that was just he was hanging out with.
Will Wheaton.
Yeah, but Will Williams
he was too young then. He was actually his younger brother's friend.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I agree with that. Just don't make it romantic, because there's no sense of why you making somebody leave their grandmother, their family behind, but just because you're going to be doing other stuff. So,
yeah. Or even throw a twist in there to say, hey, those video games you were playing, you were actually out there killing somebody else with those.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a game, it was real, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're at the part of the show where we will we are going to rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 5 lightsabers. Chad is the one that picked this movie, so he gets to rate first.
So I was not born when this movie came out, but I've seen this movie. I will definitely watch this movie again for what it is. It's very good with the early CGI stuff in a computer generated stuff. So I'll give this a good 3.5.
3.5. All right. Okay, John, how about you?
Oh man, I feel much better about my score now. Because I was like, man, I know I'm normally like more friendly in general, in terms of critiquing, but honestly, this movie is just so whimsical and fun, and truly, as many flaws as it has, to me back to a time when I was a kid and I would turn on the TV and find a movie like this and just enjoy it to death. And honestly, I can't get past that whimsical feeling, and it's a solid 4 for me.
Okay. All right. Shane, how about you?
Ooh, that's hard. Um, I do think it was a fun movie. I think it was was fun to watch. I think it was a good story. Honestly, I'm more of a I really kind of enjoyed some of the romantic elements to it. Maybe just because I'm getting older and whatever. But but I liked the mix of the romance with the outer space and everything. So I I think I'm actually going to raise raise my score just a little bit. Y'all kind of talked me into it, and I think I am actually going to do a 3.5 as well.
Fair. You didn't have to
Actually,
raise it though. In all fairness,
actually, could I do a 3.25? Is that possible?
No.
Okay,
No.
3.5 then. We'll do 3.5. Never mind. Never mind.
All right. For me, I'm torn on this movie because I gave Flash Gordon last week a 3. And I thoroughly enjoyed Flash Gordon. If I had the two of these movies back to back and I had a choice, I would pick Flash Gordon all day long. I think for what they were able to do with the amount of budget they had, I think this was a very good movie. However, I don't think it's as good as Flash Gordon. And I can't give it the same. So it's going to be a 2.5 for me. So, okay. What's next? Oh, yeah.
Crypto Enterprise.
Please contact us. Tell us if you agree with our ratings or how you would fix or improve this movie, or if there's a movie that you would like us to review. The easiest way to do that is if you're watching us on YouTube is to comment below. For those of you that are audio only listeners, you can reach us on either X or Facebook at TheseSciFiGuys. Or you could email us, TheseSciFiGuys@gmail.com.
That's right. Email us was the great way to do it, or comment. Those of you that are out there that are listening to audio only, just give you a heads up. Hey, we are not just in the United States. Apparently, because I'm looking at our numbers here, we are in Russia, the United Kingdom, Australia, Portugal, Argentina, Canada, and Uganda. So that's pretty cool. We just never really thought we would, when we started 2 years ago, we were just a couple guys, 3 of us that were just like, hey, we like science fiction movies, and let's just talk about it. And actually we've gone back and listening to some of our old stuff, and I'm like, oh man, we just were trying way too hard. Now we're just kind of having a little more fun with it. But next step, our next movie is not Last Starfighter. That's what we did. John picked it up, and it is 9.
Ooh.
and let me tell you, talking about movies that I picked up on as a child that I was enthralled with, I'm not going to say I understood it when I first watched it, but it is an excellent story.
Very excellent story. You can see I have the DVD right here. For those of you on audio, I'm holding the DVD actual case. It's fun movie. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's one of those movies that makes you think too. So,
Mm-hmm.
Shane, you've never seen this before, right? Have you?
I have not. I have not. Looking forward to it.
So,
I'm
definitely.
looking forward to watching it again because I've seen it.
I haven't seen it probably in 20 years. So
yeah, I haven't seen it since maybe a year after.
When did it come out?
2011 or 10.
I'm trying to look at the.
I would say IMAX saw it like a year after it came out, because I caught it on. I know I caught it on TV, so I know it was after it was out of theaters.
Yeah, I caught it was on TV, but it was
Copyright. I think it says 2009. No, that's just the copyright stuff.
That'd be ironic.
Who knows? We'll figure it out. We'll watch it and find out.
No, it
There you
did
go.
come out in 09. That's
It
very
did?
ironic.
It was
Yeah.
09? Okay.
9 came out in 9.
There you
this.
go.
I
Came out
said
in 9.
10 or 11. I'm like,
9 came out in 9.
I ain't.
Perfect. It's like it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. Well, everyone, until next time.
Crash and burn. These Sci-Fi Guys is an independent broadcast by The Sci-Fi Guy Productions. Super Epic is music courtesy of Alexander Nakarita and is found on creatorrecords.com. For more information on upcoming episodes, follow us on X at The Sci-Fi Guys. For our audio-only listeners, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Like, subscribe, or leave a comment to let us know how we're doing.